Now, the South African Local Government Association in KwaZulu-Natal has defended municipalities that cut off businesses and government departments that have defaulted on their services and rates accounts. KwaZulu-Natal Salga chairperson Thami Ntuli has revealed the association's position while addressing 54 mayors and their municipal managers at Salga's provincial assembly in Empangeni on Thursday. He joins us now live to explain some of the issues he raised. Mr. Ntuli, thank you so much for making time. I imagine that a lot of municipalities employ this debt control stance as a last resort. What process normally unfolds before municipalities disconnect businesses and government departments that have defaulted on their services and rates accounts?
What actually happens on monthly basis, municipalities send statements to the government departments to alert them of what they owe and call them to pay. Unfortunately, the government departments, they take time to pay. In other instances, they do not pay at all. As a result, more than 2 billion now is owed by the government departments to municipalities. And even if municipalities see that the government departments have not been paying, the first thing they start by doing, they try to persuade, to negotiate, to interact with the departments, to try and agree on a plan to ensure that they settle their debts. Unfortunately, at times, the commitments made are not fulfilled, hampering the issue of service delivery, because it's not that we are calling for an iron hand to local government towards the government departments. But the reality is that we put the people first, because the money that is not paid for the services, in fact, it affects even the provision of the service. Municipalities can't sustain the provision of the services to departments, and it even affects services to the people. You know that when you talk about the province of KwaZulu-Natal, we have a backlog. When you go on the street and talk to the people, they will always lament on the issue of the backlog that we have in terms of service delivery, the infrastructural development and maintenance. Hence, our interaction engagements with even then the MECs to say, please assist. Because I raised this with the MEC for Kokta and the Speaker of KwaZulu-Natal Legislature when we early this year, when we had Lehotla in Jozini, that municipalities are frustrated. Hence, the big problem that municipalities are faced with is that even the grants they are receiving, because the majority of the municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal, because of the rarity nature of the province, they rely on the grants, of which only 9% of the equitable share of the country is given to local government. And the funding model itself is still the funding model which was used by the apartheid government, where only the numbers or number of the people living in an area will determine how much you receive, not taking into cognizance factors which are quite very fundamental, such as the factors of the backlog, in particular when you talk about townships and when you talk about the rural
So what's the consequence then, Mr. Ntuli? So when there's this kind of default, what's the financial impact on the municipality and just their ability to provide services?
In fact, that is what I was explaining, that it impacts negatively to the provision of services to the community. And even the sustainability of the current existing services is not easy to maintain. You know, when you talk about the water infrastructure, when you talk about electricity infrastructure, where a municipality are providing is electricity, you'll find that the infrastructure is aging. It requires a lot of maintenance. Pipes are leaking. Water. So when then faced with this predicament, where there is no actually payment made by the government departments, it's really taking back local government, whereas the government departments, they are the one who are expected to support municipalities to ensure that they are functional, they are viable, they are able to provide services, they are able to address the issues of backlog.
Yeah, and I imagine this may also explain why a lot of municipalities are not paying their ESCOM debts, because ESCOM has been complaining that municipalities are not paying up. I mean, if you look at the municipal debt to ESCOM, it continues to grow. I want to get your thoughts on what the president said this week. I think he became the latest to raise the prospect of writing off the 5 billion rand Soweto debt. I think Panyaza Lesufi, the Gauteng Premier, also mentioned it this week as well. And it's not really new, but you've got to ask what this will mean for the culture of non-payment in the country. If already you are complaining as municipalities about businesses, about some of the government institutions that are feeling entitled, and even though money has been allocated, but they don't, pay for their services, when you have approaches like this, where debt can be cancelled for whatever reason and with whatever conditions, what does that do to other people who owe other institutions, in this case, your municipalities? Because they may say, well, we also don't have the money, therefore, let's write off the debt.
The biggest challenge at Salga, which we is that, one, the issue of the equitable share. The president of the country and the government is aware to put forward that we have a serious problem when it comes to what the municipalities are actually receiving. If there is a need to cancel the debts which are owned by the government departments to local government, the treasurer must come on board to say, then how do we compensate you, local government, so that you will be able to fulfill your mandate? Because it is all about the mandate of local government, which now is at stake when we have so many people owing. It is not only even the government departments, even the corporate sector is owing a lot to municipalities. The residents, even those with the capacity to pay, they owe local government. Whereas when you want to say, well, let's start on a clean slate, there is a provision even for the residents, for those that are indigent, of which the municipalities will also encourage them as Salga, that they must do justice in their indigent register to ensure that all the indigent residents, they are on the register so that they will be exempted in a way, they will be compensated in a way. But for those who have a capacity to pay for the services, they must really pay for such. In particular, the government departments can, a decision to say we write off your debt. In fact, the question would be, where are we actually taking local government to? Do we expect a local government to be able to provide services when it has no financial muscle to do so? That is where as Salga, we really think if there could be such a move, but there must be a way that the National Treasurer will come on board to ensure that the gap is not left for actually giving the capacity to municipalities to be able to provide services, because it is all about the people. It's all about the people that are expecting services from municipalities. And when you walk on the street and ask people about local government, they will say local government is a sphere that is failing us. Why? Is the closest sphere of government to them, and they expect the sphere to always provide solutions. Whereas there are such huge challenges of which the people out there are not aware that local government has this, apart from other problems, but has this fundamental challenge where a local government is being owned by the government departments. It's rare that you can find a municipality that is not owned by, is not owned actually by
what reasons?
The government departments.
Yeah, what reasons are often given by these government departments? I know that the COGTA MEC, Sihle Zikalala, has raised this issue with the mayors before. But what's the explanation of these government institutions failing to pay up? Because funding does get allocated for municipal services.
There is no proper explanation. There is no reason given. It will be just some logistical issues. We receive our budget at a particular point in time, and then we'll be paying at a particular point in time. We can't be paying month by month, rather pay in quarterly times or what have you. But there are logistical processes, I think, because there is no proper explanation is given as to why government departments are not actually paying municipalities the debt that they owe.
So what's the solution? You've had discussions with the COGTA MEC, because I imagine if you are putting up consequences and there are liabilities for government institutions that are failing, maybe you're going to see some level of compliance.
Well, that is what that's why, in fact, Salga in the KwaZulu-Natal, in our provincial members' assembly, we felt strongly that those who made a move to switch off the services so that they had to pay, it really enabled them to receive something from government departments. Like the case of Msundozi, that is what they did, and they were able to pay after the services were being actually switched off. I think if all fails, because even the MEC for COGTA yesterday, Honorable S. Zikalala, acknowledged that this is a problem, this is a major problem, though he spoke of a war room which has been set so that such issues are being able to be cleared. But, you know, war rooms are fine, talk shows are fine, but what is required is action. That government departments, they must be the one to be on the lead to pay municipality debt, so that even corporate will do the same, and the residents with the capacity to pay will do the same, so that we'll be able to take forward our province with the local government that is enabled to provide the services to the people.
All right, Thami Ntuli, thank you for making time for us this afternoon.